All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so very much for coming out. By the way, for those of you who do not know me, I'm Robin Gomez. I'm the Madeira Beach City Manager since December of 2021. Love Madeira Beach, love everything about it. For those who have not heard this before, you can't ask for a better job. My commute is walking from 143rd to here, mostly along the sand. So I get to view the Gulf of Mexico every day, think about my day. Then when I leave at night, I walk on the sand on my way home. Pretty cool job, but thank you again for coming out. We have with us representatives from the Florida Department of Transportation. We're here to talk about 150th Avenue, State Road 666, vehicle, pedestrian, your comments mainly, but ways that we along with FDOT can enhance, improve. This is one of likely future many discussions. I know many of you have already submitted documentation, emails, phone calls, letters. Those are very much appreciated. But we'll go ahead and also with us today, we do have our mayor is here, Anne Marie Brooks. Thank you, Mayor, for coming. Commissioner Eddie McGeehan, our staff, Andrew Morris here to my right from our Community Development Department. And in the back is Tom Redder, our IT broadcast technician. So again, thank you all so very much for coming out. And I am going to, I guess, Joellen, if you want to introduce yourself and
Sure.
Go ahead.
Sure. Hi, I'm Joellen.
And just we could use the microphone, sorry. This meeting is being recorded, and people can watch it live on YouTube as well currently.
Hi, Joellen Guthrie. Can you hear me? Joellen Guthrie with the Florida Department of Transportation. I am an engineer in the Traffic Operations Office.
I'm Donald Marco. I am also with the Traffic Operations Office in the Florida Department of Transportation under Joellen's management.
Thank you again both for coming out. And how it'll work, I'm just going to go over a couple of the items that, again, a lot of this information that many of you have provided over the years. This issue has been discussed for a few years. We're hoping this is the first of at least a couple of meetings, because the feedback I have received is there are several people, well, probably as many as up to 15 who could not be here. They are not here this time of the year, residents who live in the condo buildings along 150th. So they have requested another meeting sometime likely in early November when they are back here in Madeira Beach. So we're going to look to schedule a second meeting to allow them the opportunity to speak. But as many of you are aware, how many of you actually live on 150th? So that by a show of hands, so how many of you live in Madeira Beach? Yeah, pretty much a lot of us. How many of you wish you lived in Madeira? So we're 2 miles long and a smile wide. The area that, and I know you have, in the back, there are agendas for the meeting. The packet that is also on the meeting agenda on our website, pretty much it's pretty straightforward. It has an aerial of 150th Avenue and the current configuration of the current pedestrian crosswalk on Madeira Way at 150th, and then it identifies essentially the driveway entrance into Madeira Cove, and this is a prior aerial, show that directly across the entrance to Madeira Cove is the driveway entrance into the two new condo buildings. I think we call them Condo A and Condo B, but Bill, they have better names. Harbor and Residences at Town Center are the two condo buildings. One has 27 units, the other has 38 units. So a total of 65 residences in those two condo buildings. Those replaced, for those of you who have been here probably at least 4 years, well, actually the structures were there when I arrived, but most of them were vacant, the old shopping plazas that were there. They were likely there for decades. And while they were open, 1952. From 1952, likely all the way through the mid-20-teens, those shopping plazas had a variety of retail outlets, possibly some restaurant or beverage also in there. So what does that mean is that they drew or attracted, obviously, a certain number of vehicles every day that they were open, or at least that's what can be inferred. Those of you who have been here longer than I, obviously, if you lived or walked or drove by there, you would see cars and or people walking in and out of that plaza. The reason I'm mentioning that is because X number of businesses that were there were drawing, obviously, vehicular traffic in and out of there. The configuration was a little bit different than the current configuration. The driveway that I mentioned that goes in and out of condo A and B was there, but it was a right turn only when that plaza was actually open and functioning. The reconstruction and the new construction for the two condos allows now for a left turn out of that driveway. So that's a change, and a little bit of the change that I've heard from some of you as well as other residents, particularly along the three condos on 150th, as well as other residents that now have told me, hey, when I'm leaving or entering the island, now I have to deal with cars making a left out of there, whereas years ago, there was not a left at that same intersection. There was a left out of there, which it changed when a median or a soft median, I'm going to call it, was added on 150th Avenue. You could make a left out of one of those entrances and exits in the prior configuration. That is no longer applicable. If you're at Patriot Park, which is just to the east of the two condos and then the vacant lot to the east, you cannot make a left, you must make a right coming out of Patriot Park, but you do have the turnaround, which did exist before, at the driveway entrance into Madeira Cove. So the concerns that have been raised in this area and in the agenda for this meeting, there are about 30 emails that residents did provide over the last couple of months, and I have a couple of more that have been submitted. But essentially, the increase in the number of vehicles has become an issue. Now, is there actually an increase in the number of vehicles? We only know by counts that have occurred over the years. I think FDOT has done some counts, and you may speak to that during this meeting, but Forward Pinellas also has done some counts, and whether there are more vehicles or not, we believe there are, because the number of visitors onto the island has increased. Unless some of you think that we have fewer visitors than we did, that has only increased, particularly after COVID. Pinellas County, the Visit St. Pete Clearwater, the firm that they use to do research on tourism and visitors to Pinellas County, has shown an increase from 12 million visitors in 2019 to 15.3 in 2023. We have seen an increase, we know, by the number of people going to Johns Pass Village and Boardwalk, and also our parking has seen a number of increase. And when your parking increases, it only means one of two things. It either increased because you're getting more money because you raised your rate, or it's increased because you have more vehicles and more people parking in your spaces. And that has clearly happened in the 3 years that I've been here. So are we getting more vehicles coming onto and off the island? The answer is highly likely yes. With the addition of the left turn lane, once the first condo building opened and then the second one, we don't exactly know whether that is more or less than what was there before, but as I stated already, there is a left turn that did not previously exist. So in addition to the increased number of vehicles, those left turns, number of U-turns. If anybody, I think I did it earlier today, you go on Google Maps or MapQuest, and if you're south of 150th, anywhere on Gulf Boulevard, St. Pete Beach, Treasure Island, or even the Reef, and you enter Cambria or the address for the Cambria Hotel, Google Maps will tell you to make a right on 150th and then do a U-turn and come back onto Madeira Way to get to the Cambria. I've approached Google and asked them to please change it. The route is you can go north continue on Gulf Boulevard to Madeira Way at Gulf Boulevard, north of 150th and make a right onto Madeira Way, and then the Cambria Hotel is on your left a few hundred feet up. So that has led to some of the U-turns in front of the driveway entrances into Madeira Cove and the two condos. Other issues have been with the pedestrian crosswalk that was installed about 4 years ago with the reconfiguration of Madeira Way and the construction of the Cambria. That crosswalk, I believe, has a mind of its own. Sometimes you push it and it changes in 20 to 30 seconds. Sometimes it can be 90 seconds to as many as about 120. So what has happened is pedestrians get a little frustrated, or some of you who use it fairly regularly, you're not pushing the button but waiting when it's safe to cross. So it's a crosswalk that in essence, it's good that it's there, but it's not functioning occasionally as it's supposed to. In addition to that, the speed limit along 150th, currently it's 35 miles as you're coming onto the island, and it's 35 as you're leaving, heading east, until you approach the speed limit sign near the entrance to the marina, and then it jumps up to 40. I've had numerous residents ask, can that be lowered to 30? I don't know how many of you would want to see the speed limits throughout all of Madeira, our two main arteries, Gulf Boulevard and 150th, lowered to 30. I've heard from some yes and others no. So that's an interesting question. Do we lower it or not? What's the basis for it? FDOT and all transportation entities have studies and do research to determine what should the ideal speed limit be, as well as whether you have a signalized intersection or not. Where the blue is, the blue rectangle, again, at the driveway entrances to the condos, residents have suggested to put a signalized intersection there. And likely a signalized intersection that is not a regular loop. It is activated when a left turn or the pedestrian crosswalk is activated. So in other words, it wouldn't have a regular cycle, meaning every minute it turns red or it cycles through on all four sides. It would remain green on 150th until such time as somebody got in one of the left turn lanes. And again, in all four directions, you're coming out of the condos or you're looking to make a left turn into either Madeira Cove or to condo A or B, then it would activate and go through its cycle, or when somebody would push the pedestrian. I believe those exist, but so that's what's been communicated. Could we make that as an enhancement and eliminate the pedestrian crosswalk where the yellow on the screen that is at Madeira Way crossing over 150th. And in addition to, well, here's a little bit closer image, showing the actual driveway. It's in your packet, the new driveway where the two new condos are on the north side of 150th. So where the red kind of oval is, eliminating the yellow pedestrian crosswalk and adding a signalized or kind of a modified signalized intersection where the red oval is at the driveway entrances. Additionally, other recommendations or suggestions have been to add more signage along the road. We have some cars that are making some illegal left turns onto the shopping plaza here as they're traveling westbound. Instead of turning into the entrance that's over here or on the west side of that plaza that has the Kava and then the realty shop, and it used to have or it has the breakfast place, they'll want to enter over here. So they're traveling westbound and then they make essentially an illegal left turn because they're driving onto oncoming traffic, albeit for 20, 30, or 40 feet. But that is an illegal vehicle movement because you just turned onto oncoming traffic, and also a left turn there is not. The left turn is to turn onto the entrance exit onto Madeira Cove. So a lot of these, they've been all documented. They've been provided, again, in the emails and in conversations that I've had with FDOT to try to make, what can be done, what should we do, what other research needs to be done. And I think we had a couple of the similar emails that I received yesterday and today, pretty much similar about what I stated. But I think I could, Joellen and you and Donald, if you want anything, to add at this point. But once they go through, then we'll open it up for any of your, certainly questions, comments. Do you have any questions or comments for the city at this? Yes. Oh, hold on. One thing, if we could use a microphone, we have a box that you can throw around and catch it. That has a microphone, and here's another.
Says head, okay, you can hear me. Joe Olt, East Parsley Drive and Madeira Way. Just to be accurate on your description of the previous property, you could drive behind those buildings, there was parking in the back, and you could go out at the light at Madeira Way.
When that was a fully signalized
fully,
intersection
yeah.
at Madeira Way and 150th. You are
So
correct. Thank you for mentioning that.
It just wasn't cars pulling in and pulling back out.
Correct.
There's a lot of traffic around the back because there was boats, a lot of stuff back there. So that was actually the main transit way through there. And then you come out by the dairy place right there on Madeira Way.
So it took you to a safer ability to enter and exit that whole
Absolutely.
shopping plaza. It wasn't necessary. The impact to 150th was less, essentially, or potentially less, because you could do that.
Right.
Thank you
Thanks.
for bringing that up. And I do want to, we have Megan Wepfer, our Public Works Director. Any other questions for the city? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me give you the.
I just have a question regarding the signal at Madeira Way. Back in January, I sent a letter to the city, and back in May, I sent a letter to FDOT in Tallahassee. Is there any way that light can be synchronized with Gulf Boulevard? I pray for a pedestrian to push that button. Why not synchronize that light so when the Gulf Boulevard turns red on 150th, that light also triggers and turns? That way, people coming in and out of the driveways can get in and out without an issue and a minimal cost.
That's interesting. I know that the light at,
Can I
yeah, no, go ahead, Joe. Yes.
So you're asking the full traffic signal is at Gulf, sorry, the full signal at Gulf and 150th to be timed with the pedestrian crosswalk signal at, right. And it was that way when it was a full traffic signal in the past. But the pedestrian crosswalk now is only triggered when the button is pushed.
Correct. So we need to pay somebody to push that button.
That's right. That's right. That would do that. It would be something that could be looked at because it does have a full cabinet. It's something that can be looked at.
It's a lot cheaper than moving that light.
Correct.
In the interim, maybe later it can be moved.
Well, yeah, but it would be cheap. The gentleman stated cheaper by moving it than adding another signalized intersection. But typically pedestrian crosswalks, I think you could know better than I do. Typically they're not synchronized to a full signalized intersection. You typically don't find that because if you're going to do that, you might as well put the pedestrian crosswalk where the signalized intersection is, exactly, to have them in the same location for enhanced safety. But that's just how in the 30 years I've been in local government, that's how they typically are set. Except New York City, that's a whole different, or downtown Miami, that's a whole different area. Any other city? Yes, Jim.
Hi, I'm Jim Everett. I'm known for the bridge, so I'm going to ask about the bridge. So I guess part of the other consideration in looking at 150th is the bridge going up and down, because how many of us has sat, the bridge goes down, and the light turns red immediately at Doomy Road, which would be nice if that signal could remain green for a certain period of time once the bridge goes back down to clear that traffic. And then, of course, the traffic coming off of Gulf Boulevard. So all that, and depending on time of year, that traffic could be quite heavy on the 150th. So I'm assuming that there's consideration of those other factors. And the last remaining factor is the school. So since that's a fundamental school, parents have to drive their cars. There's no bus service. So that generates a tremendous amount of vehicular traffic coming in and out of school certain times of day. So all those are going to play into, as I'm sure y'all know, all those are going to play into the traffic on 150th, and placing another signal on 150th, I would think there needs to be some signal coordination between all of those factors to ensure optimal traffic flow. Otherwise, you're just going to create another bottleneck on the road. I understand the frustration with the condo owners trying to get in and out. It's difficult, but you've also got those other factors that come into play and affect the 150th dramatically.
And that's part of the, yeah, go ahead. No, I was just going to say, I mean, that's part of the review to determine the distance and the queuing, as you just stated.
Does FDOT have a presentation they want to make, or is this an appropriate time to talk about
Yeah,
Yeah, no, go right ahead.
our wish list?
Yep.
Is this a good time?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Bill Carnes. I am the developer of the Madeira Beach Town Center that runs all along 150th Avenue. Includes the 2 new condo buildings I built, the Cambria Hotel, and now we're going to be doing the what I call the Triangle area. That's going to be a Marriott Autograph Hotel. And I moved into the new condo building, the last one I did, at 400, which is the residence at Town Center. So that's the condo building to the east. My office is on the corner of 150th and First. It's the blue building that sits right on the corner there. I own multiple bars and restaurants on Madeira Way. I can guarantee everybody in this room, nobody traverses that area right there in a day than I do. I'm in and out, in and out, in and out all day long. So my wish list, and I know the residents of Madeira Cove, I know the residents that I have in the 2 buildings that I built. Our preference would be to eliminate the light and the crosswalk that's currently at Madeira Way. Take that traffic light and move it to the east, right to that driveway. That signal that would be there would serve really 3 purposes. One, to provide the public with safe pedestrian traffic crossing 150th Avenue, just like it is now. Hit the button and the light will turn. Hopefully not 2 minutes, like Robin had said, which I've done that too, because I walk back and forth from my office to my house. So I know that thing isn't, it's different all the time. Could be a few seconds, it could be a couple of minutes. So by doing that, that provides all of the residents that are in, we'll call it condo A and B, but the 2 condo buildings share that driveway, which is directly across from the Madeira Cove driveway. There's 60 units, I believe, in Madeira Cove, and as Robin said, we had 65 units that I built in the 2 buildings. Active people, working people, so they're coming and going all the time. To make a left turn, I'm still a young 65, so I may be a little more aggressive in my driving than other people, because I can maneuver it. It's not easy though, especially like Jim said, when the bridge goes up and down and the traffic's backed up. There are a lot of considerate drivers out there when they see it's backing up that'll let you make that left turn out of either one of those buildings. But you know, you have to count on someone being a thoughtful and considerate driver, and unfortunately, that's not the world. Hurry up and get to go nowhere, you know. So our wish would be to have that light moved, and as Robin said, to put, it wouldn't be on a cycle. It'd come on when the car approached. It would come on when someone pressed the light to the crosswalk. And that would benefit the whole area. And the other problem is, right now, with the light where it's at, it's so close to Gulf Boulevard, when that light turns red and people are crossing, and it takes a while for that to go through because some people get across faster than other people, so it stays red for quite a while. What happens then is the cars come in northbound on Gulf Boulevard that want to make a right-hand turn onto 150th, there gets a long line backing up there. And I'm not talking about a few cars. I'm talking about solid from the light to Gulf Boulevard and from Gulf Boulevard all the way down to the Bank of America, what used to be the Bank of America building there, waiting for people to make a right-hand turn there. So I think by moving that down, it's going to increase the distance between Gulf Boulevard and the light. It's going to allow more cars there, and it'll take those cars off of Gulf Boulevard that are backed up. And when it backs up to where it's just 2 lanes. It's not just the right turn lane there. I can tell you, when I bought all that property on 150th Avenue, there were nine ingress and egress points to get in and out of all of those stores. There were 9 of them. And at one point, I had them almost all full when we first bought the property, and we're trying to get the development approved and all of that. It was years. But I can tell you, now that there's one entrance, well, there'll be 2, because next to the second condo building, the furthest one to the east, there's going to be a small 2-story building, a marina office building that's going to go there. So there's an entrance driveway that as you're coming over the bridge past 9/11, you got the entrance into 9/11 Park, then you have the entrance into what's going to be the new marina building, and now you have the entrance into the 2 condos. So we went from 9 entrances to just 3. And that makes a really big difference, I'll tell you. It's the in and outs from the retail that was there, and they generated a lot of traffic in there because they're retail stores. People are in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Now you have the residences and the Harbor building. You don't have that in and out all day long, but you do have that difficulty of making that left-hand turn. So I know I personally worked with FDOT for several years. I'm trying to come up with something that works. And there's a lot of regulations. I understand that, you know. We only had 1 death crossing there right now. And I think they want to see 3 or 4 deaths before they do something. And to me, that's great. Pardon? That's what I heard. So I don't want anybody to die. I want everybody to be safe. And I think this is a much better option by moving that light. It solves all of the problems. It's affected by the people going down First Street to get to, 149, Bayshore, 100, all those going that way. It affects all of my neighbors, and I love my neighbors on East Madeira Ave. They're all good people, and they have difficulties too getting out. So it's not just the condos that I built that are new. It's not the condos right across the street. It's all of the residents that use First Street to go in and out. So I think that's the best way, in my opinion, to solve the problem that we have. I know they changed the bridge to open, what it used to be every 20 minutes. Now it's every half an hour, I believe. That was something that we had asked for originally when we did the development. I think that's been done. A lot of people were wanting no right turn on red at Gulf Boulevard and 150th Avenue because everybody's just looking for a little opportunity to have traffic stopped and everyone can get out safely. And I think moving that light accomplishes all of those things. And I appreciate the time.
One addition to that, all great points. If you did have a no right on red on that corner of Gulf Boulevard by 7-Eleven, and if you did have that light moved to where you're talking about moving it, could it be, and I don't know the answer to this, maybe it can't be done, but could it be almost like a flasher for a minute and a half or something, and then if you don't get a relief, then it changed? Because then that wouldn't interrupt the flow on 150th going out there, because if you did have a no right on red, that would create enough of a gap to let people just come and go as they wanted to. But in the event traffic was not stopping, then it would turn into a signal. This way you don't create the flow. I don't know if that's possible, just a thought I was thinking about that one.
When it's green, people are going right. When it's red, they're still going. They still don't stop. They go right through that red light. They just zip through there. So it's a nonstop flow of traffic coming down 150th Avenue, and that's what we need the relief from.
And one other bottleneck too, which I'm sure you guys see, when you go over the bridge by the school, there's 2 left turns there, which don't need to be 2 left turns there because you only have the straight people, especially in the mornings when school's going in, we're way backed up. And then you guys know that light cycle sucks, right? You're stuck and it's a 3.5 minute light or whatever it is. But if that double turn lane could be a 1 single turn lane, I've never seen it backed up to be needing 2. Then you'd have 3 lanes that would be allowed to get everybody straight off 150th. That would dramatically lessen the traffic on 150th leaving the island.
Yeah, you're referencing the 2 left turn lanes onto Dume Road.
That's right, yep. If just the far left one was the turn, and that second one in was a straight and a turn maybe if you did that way, but then you'd have 3 outflows and just would really stop that backflow. That would be a simple fix.
The left turn lane, they come on different than.
It's a different cycle.
So I don't think that, you couldn't have that.
Just make it 1 then.
Yeah, so there's currently 2 lanes that continue eastbound. When you come across heading eastbound from the bridge, the two lanes continue directly straight across Dume Road. Then the 2 turn lanes appear to turn left onto Dume Road. If the first, left turn lane became just a 3rd lane to continue straight, because what Jeff's comment is, because as you go across Dume Road, there are 3 lanes, and then it merges to 2, and then the road splits to go to Tyrone or to go to Seminole Boulevard. That's
one of the things when we first were discussing this, and I'm going back now to 2015 and 16 when we were proposing the developments. One of the things they said was the distance between Gulf Boulevard, the current light and the old light that was at Madeira Way, and where we were proposing to put it in between the 2 condos there. They said the distance was too short, but the distance was shorter from Gulf Boulevard to where it is now. It would be further away, so I didn't understand that. And I didn't understand as you turn left from going off the island, you turn left at Dume Road, there's that light right there. There's a light that goes to the American Legion and that light's much closer. So I didn't understand that.
I keep waiting, thinking that I'm going to answer all these questions independently, but.
Go ahead.
So that particular question, I don't know when that original signal was put in at Madeira Way, but it goes way back, and we didn't develop our standards of how far signal spacing should be until 1980.
The statutes for the Access Management Act went into effect in 1980.
Let me get you.
The statutes for the Access Management Act, which were the foundation of the standards, went into effect in 1988. The first version of Rule 14-96, and I believe 14-97 as well, were basically in 1990. I'll have to double check on 14-97, and that's the
Both of those lights we're talking about were done
Prior to that, that's correct.
That makes sense.
And so the standard now is a quarter mile, 1,320 feet is, and that is so that the amount of traffic that you have on this is a Class 7 roadway. Each road is classed differently, but all of these roads around here are Class 7, which are actually the least restrictive of all of the road classifications that we have. You can put signals closer,
Yeah.
you know.
But do you know the distance from Gulf Boulevard to the entrances to Madeira Cove and the 2 new condos? I think it's about 600 feet right now from Gulf Boulevard to where the light is now.
The pedestrian crosswalk.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking probably another 500 feet, maybe 600 feet from that light to the entrance to Madeira Cove.
What is it, 800 feet?
About 618 feet from the middle of Gulf Boulevard at 150th to the crosswalk, the pedestrian crosswalk, if Google is
Now,
currently.
yeah, and then that distance from there, if you move that light,
Yeah, what's the distance all the way to
All
would,
the way to the light?
yeah, that
where they're,
probably probably 1,000 feet, something like that.
Yeah, about 1,013 feet.
Yeah,
Give or
so that's
plus or
below
minus.
your standard, but it's still much better than what's there.
So,
right, but that pedestrian crosswalk is only when it's pushed, right? So it's not, and when that other signal was there, they were coordinated signals, right? So they tied together, you wouldn't have a red light when the other one was green, blah, blah, blah. So, so that is the reason. It doesn't meet the minimum standards? Yeah.
How you address that, because what's there doesn't really meet the standard. What I'm proposing
Doesn't meet this.
doesn't quite meet it, but it's a whole lot better than that distance between Dooley Road and 150th and that light that's at the American Legion.
so would I be able to ask something about the FDOT context classification guide? So I looked up 150th Ave, and it's that C4 urban general from the intersection with Gulf Boulevard to around the school, where then it becomes the C3 suburban from the intersection of Doomy and then to the city limit. It said, like with the urban general one, it says allowable design speed range of 25 to 45 miles per hour. Are there any I guess that's always confusing, because when you described it as, you made it sound almost like a highway, but then by this it says urban general, which is more of a urban arterial street. So I kind of wanted a clarification on that, please. Thank you.
So basically, first of all, the connections, okay, the speed is basically determined by various factors, in part the context classification and various policies, which I do not have handy at hand, but ultimately they're determined at basically department head level, which is above our level. But they basically meet and basically determine it based on, in part, context classification, as well as various local site factors and various safety factors such as crash record.
Robin, can
Go ahead.
I? So one of the questions I had in regards to the no right turn on Gulf Boulevard, if that were to happen, currently the pedestrian crosswalk going from south to north at that same intersection goes walking as soon as the green light happens. So everyone who's trying to safely make their right-hand turns on a green is faced with all the pedestrians crossing at the same time. So if you were to go no right on red, the pedestrians should be crossing at that point. But that also may affect something else. But it's something to consider, that the residents know that that light's going to change, but tourists don't. And you just said we have 15 million visitors who don't know that there's going to be a pedestrian crossing as soon as that light turns green.
You're right, so Gulf Boulevard.
So it's something to consider in
So Gulf
maneuvering that
Boulevard
light.
traveling northbound on your vehicle.
And
with
if you
that
want to make
light,
the right onto 150th,
150th, when that light turns green,
crosswalk turns,
crosswalk
pedestrian,
turns
safe,
white,
and
yeah.
they step right off the second. I mean, that's a dangerous spot there. The other thing is, I guess I would really like to see you guys look into, before you do anything to those left turns on Doomy, actually research that, because during season, those lanes are both full. Right now they might not be, but that is not a, yeah, I just would I just don't want it to not be researched first. Oh.
The
So-
two
Can I
left-hand
just-
turns on Doomy, part of the reason that there are 2 lanes there is to alleviate the traffic, because if you get 6 cars, it will back up into that second lane, and then you only have 1 lane in going through. So that's why they put 2 lanes in there.
Yeah, the department doesn't typically put in 2 lanes unless it's necessary. And ma'am, your question about the no turn or the no turn on red, initially, this is going back a few years, we had looked at putting something like that in or providing something called an LPI, which is a lead pedestrian.
Leading pedestrian interval, it allows the pedestrians to 3 seconds, about 3 seconds more or less, to basically, the mainline traffic is still red, but the crosswalk beside it is green for about it gets the walk for about 3 seconds before the main line gets to green.
It would give you an opportunity to get out there before any lights, all of the lights would be red, right? But that signal is actually so old, the controller box for it can't handle it. So that controller box would need to be redone, which we're looking at. We've also just completed a study where we're looking at trying to upgrade that whole system, provide pedestrian more time, because we've heard from the residents what you stated earlier is that there's never a good time to cross 150th when you're on Gulf Boulevard. So we're trying to come up with a way and what's needed out there to be upgraded.
But currently, that pedestrian crosswalk, I think is, as you said, the light turns green for the vehicles after the crosswalk gives the pedestrian the white light to go across. You get a few seconds. The problem is for pedestrians crossing from north to south, it takes you a little bit more than 3 seconds to cross that. I typically jog across. That's why I dress like this, because you got to run across our crosswalks to cross those streets. But it is the issue. And I mean, as I taught my kids, you always look left and right and then look left and right again and then look the driver in the eye before you're going to cross any street. And if you're ever crossing any one-way streets, what do? You got to look both ways, because oftentimes people are driving in the opposite direction. So a lot of it is also educating pedestrians, but because in the ongoing pedestrian versus vehicles, pedestrians lose every time. So I've almost been hit at least a dozen times, even when I jog and I'm wearing brightly colored shirts. I've yelled, I've waved with the one finger, et cetera, given the one finger salute. Yeah, lots of different things, but clearly the intent is to be safer.
I can attest to what the lady said there about the light being green and going on Gulf Boulevard, and the signal indicator for the crosswalk being white on at the same time, because just 2 days ago, I had my daughter in the car with me. I've got the green light. I'm making the right-hand turn, and this lady just kept walking, never looked, never stopped. She saw that she had the white. And I came very close to hitting her, scared the hell out of me. Thank God my daughter said, stop, stop, this lady's here. I'm like, how can a lady be there? And I look, and there it was. So I agree with her that there's times, and I don't know how that control box is working, but there are definitely times when you have the green light on Gulf Boulevard, and that crosswalk is lit white.
And we live here.
Right, tourists don't
I've
know
almost
that.
been hit 20 times, but I almost hit people 10 times, and I know that thing does that. So when the tourists come, the snowbirds come, they don't know.
Oh, here's your box.
Catch boxes.
Did y'all hear me over there?
Well, it's for the microphone, for the, yeah.
I said, and he lives here, we all do, and I've almost hit several people. I've almost been hit many times, and I know about that light. So the snowbirds that don't pay attention, the drunks that don't pay attention, the older people who don't pay attention, let's be honest, our demographics, we got 3 strikes right there against us. And as local people, we know we're aware of it, and we're still watching out for it. Oh, this will be fun.
Right? Accosted in the meeting. Is there a way like they do at school crossings where we're saying no right on red, where if you press the pedestrian button, you get the fancy light up box that says the no right on red instead of no right on red all the time? Because I can just see that you have to do something with the pedestrian issue, but then you also have the issue of all that traffic backing up on, you know, Gulf Boulevard if we're all just sitting there while the pedestrians are going on green, and then we also can't turn when it's red. The traffic trying to exit off to 150th would be pretty, maybe we get one of those light up no turn signs that are like person activated.
Yep, that's been communicated to, if they could add the box.
I have a couple of comments too, because I live in Boca Vista, which is in front of Madeira Cove, and I'm looking at all these emails. Did this initiative start with Madeira Cove, like bringing this to the city? Because I don't see anybody from Boca Vista.
I think it started long before, but it's gained more momentum with the opening of the condos and the fact that, again, there's as Mr. Karn said, there were X number of entrances and exits. Now it's down to essentially 4, but that left turn out of the 2 new condos has made the configuration of vehicles driving a little bit more complicated. And from the residents at Madeira Cove, a little bit more, you have to look out for a few more things when exiting or entering their driveway into their condo. Now you have oncoming traffic you did not before, as well as cars doing U-turns. You may have had that before, but probably, well, you couldn't have because there wasn't an opening in the middle exiting Madeira Cove. So that's, once that was reconfigured, it kind of came back into the forefront as, hey, now it's less safe. And the president of the, I think he's the president of the Madeira Cove Association, went to of creating this configuration of the movements on right there at both driveways. Again, you got the 2 condos, 150th, and then the Madeira Cove entrance, and the things that now you need to look for that, again, before this was opened, you didn't have these additional movements or vehicles or pedestrians conceivably to look for.
No, I'm familiar with that because I lived in Boca Vista for 7 years, so I saw the change. The experience that I have is the same that Madeira Cove has. The traffic, once it starts going, you can't even turn out right from our complexes too, and we're another 400 feet from there. And we can't turn left either. We actually have to wait for the Doomy Road signal to change before we can actually get out. The other thing that I wanted to comment on from my experience is I'm in favor of moving that light because I think that will stop the speed problem. My experience is our building is closer to the street, the Madeira Cove, and regardless of what the speed limit is, nobody follows it. Everyone is gunning it from Gulf all the way across the bridge. And the speed is like the noise from it, the motorcycles, and it's just like, there's no way to control that 35 to 40. Everyone just doesn't even, there's not enough signage for that either. So the speed change, I think, it should be consistent or lower, and even if it's matching Gulf, which is 35. The problem that we experience is getting out, and then the noise from the people just gunning it when they come off of Gulf, so.
So, just to clarify something, so I was looking at the access management guide. So there's roadway access class, which you said, which is class 7, and then it has the FDOT context classification thing, which I was talking about. It looks like, and then I see the 1,320 feet minimum signal spacing. Basically, it looks like the only exception to that, you basically have to prove that there's a need or safety need to go closer than that, and that probably, I would have to look through the rule chapter to see what it says, because there's like some sort of rule chapter.
It's not that threshold, but I'm saying it'll cut down people from flooring it from going
Right.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, cut down the.
It's a drag strip right now.
Go ahead, Donald.
Yeah, that is like basically, that's basically the very, very short form of it. There are various other policies that are descended from 14-97 that basically come into play, especially when it comes to signalized intersections. The short form of that answer is it has to be looked at department head level if we're talking about signal spacing closer than what is than the recommended for the than what's recommended for that access class.
Yeah, so, go ahead.
If I could add. So the other thing is it would have to meet a signal warrant for a signal be placed. So typically, the side streets have to have a certain volume to warrant a signal. And right now, you've got the 2 condos and you've got Madeira Cove. It's not a whole lot of traffic from either one of those 2 sides. And I don't know how much further, but I know that we had initially talked with Mr. Gomez about this. We had looked at how none of the condos are interconnected. If all of that could be interconnected somehow and come to one point, you would probably drive that signal. And
we worked with the 3 condo buildings on 150th Avenue, and what we originally wanted is exactly what you said, was a road that went just inside. There's a very short distance from, why am I drawing a blank on the very last condo? Snug Harbor.
Snug Harbor.
So Snug Harbor, to get onto the property at Boca Ciega, it's only like 20 feet. It'd be nothing there. The problem came in with Boca Ciega because Boca Vista
to Madeira Cove.
They didn't want that traffic coming. They would have either lost their tennis court, which I know it doesn't get used much, but they've got it. It's an amenity. They would have had to move it. But there was a way that we could have curved it around and kept it, and we had an entrance now coming into the entrance into Madeira Cove. Then all of the vehicles that wanted to go left would, from all 3 condos, would come out that, and that created enough traffic, but I couldn't get the 3 condos together. I guess there's a beef between Boca Vista and there's no beef or something with the Snug Harbor.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Go.
We would love to see that surface road.
The tennis court or that parking, sorry. You can see in the thing, the tennis court in that gray area, that's covered parking.
Right.
But our parking lot adjacent, it butts up against the Madeira Cove driveway.
Right. And what we were talking about, if you can slide that back up a little bit.
It's on that side.
You had the surface road coming along Gulf Boulevard till you get toward the tennis courts. And then it came down and it came through right.
No, I see what you're saying, but
in that area there.
The concern is that whole row of parking is resident parking, for the condo owners.
Right.
And if you disrupt that, then we're going to lose parking spots.
But it would just be 2 spots right there.
Yeah. If you, what I think Bill is saying, you cut an entrance right here where I'm moving the arrow, you probably lose 2 parking spaces, it looks like.
Right.
I mean, an entrance is typically 18 feet wide. It could be 15 feet, which is a little bit narrower. A typical parking space is 8 to 9 feet wide. So it appears to the loss of 2 parking spaces in this area, but it would allow the access for Boca Vista to enter and exit here rather than coming out here.
But
and then you had a long stacking line.
The commercial trucks can't turn in there. I'm telling you that. We see commercial trucks can't get into our complex because of that.
Yeah. But I think
Okay, so you don't eliminate the original, you leave the original entrance.
Yeah, it's not.
Entrance and exit. And if anybody wants to go left, they got to go out through Boga. And, yeah, I mean,
And if
so
that's-
giving up 2 parking stalls for safety. So
No, I
that's what
get it,
you'd
and
have
it
to.
makes sense, but if the light was there, that would control us getting out. The
No,
problem is
right, and I
to
think
get out.
what I think the comments are that if we were to have the ability for the vehicles at Snug Harbor and Boca Vista, along with Madeira Cove, to enter and exit through the Madeira Cove access point here, then that could provide the data or the warrant to put the signalized intersection or modify it, I'm calling it the modified, at this area, which would make it easier for ingress egress out of all 5 condo buildings. But again, I think it doesn't appear to be a gigantic issue, but I'm only saying that because I'm looking at it. I'm not living there.
Are those guest parking spots there, or are those assigned to residents?
Each resident has 2 spots, one
Right.
is covered,
These are
and those are
resident
all of the secondary spots. Actually, my second spot is on that row. But I'm saying if there's.
So we'd be taking away your spot?
I mean,
Sounded like he was
at least from a
volunteering.
planning and zoning perspective, I mean, if you guys have enough ISR, if you can add more parking and add more paved surface, just you can't exceed the impervious surface ratio limit.
Oh, okay, that's
But
it.
if it's something that,
So you could probably add more. It looks like you have a lot of green space. You can add a slightly more parking. I'm sure you could find 2 spots.
those are covered spots, that white
Yeah.
car right there, that's another.
These are
spot.
covered spaces here, right? Yeah, yeah, I
All
was,
of that row right there are
Jim-
secondary spots for owners.
Jim had a good idea. He said, and then we put the onus on Madeira Cove to lose some parking spots.
There is actually,
But if you just came straight down there,
that space is, there's a fence there. There's nothing else. There's literally like 2 feet of grass between the 2 parking spots.
no, we're
ooh,
talking.
so I'm gonna
we're-
try it later.
We're talking about the width of the road there?
No, I'm talking about that narrow space at the
Right about
end,
here?
Right there,
Yeah, right here.
right there, those,
It's potentially drivable as it stands, is what it sounded like, but, you know.
Oh,
There's just a
that
fence
could,
there.
that could be paved there. I
there's
mean,
a
it-
fence.
I'll try it with the Kubota. Andrew, could you note that? Yes,
No, they're not. The water pumps are on the front of the building.
they're on the front. Did, sorry, just to add, the 1,320 feet that have been mentioned is a DOT administrative requirement of the space or the distance between 2 signalized intersections. That's the, in case you were wondering where, is that's just a DOT administrative rule or criteria if you want to.
Yeah, the 1320 distance between signals for a Class 7 road is in the table of Rule 4-97 of the Florida Administrative Code.
But then how would you put a,
It is, it can be, but it'd be a very complex process.
but how are you proposing to put the signal at Madeira Cove when it's shorter than that distance?
Well, that's what we're,
You have to have the traffic to justify the signal there, to deviate from that rule.
And,
All the condos on 150th would be accessing that.
and if we support that breakthrough to provide our traffic flow through there, how does something like that get proposed between the 2?
Associations would have to work together to come up with an agreement. I'm on the board at Snug Harbor,
Okay.
and I know that they tried to do that back in the day, and it did not work out. Doesn't mean that something couldn't work out now, but figuring out how to create that road, that's 3 associations, not DOT.
So it would be Madeira Cove and Boca Vista.
And Snug Harbor.
How would Snug Harbor,
they would have to create an access point. So Boca Vista bears the,
So I think that,
so Boca Vista, by virtue of being in the middle, you bear the brunt from both sides. Allow the access from Snug Harbor through Boca Vista to then go out to Madeira Cove onto the roadway access to 150th. It's, so say I'm parked right here or, well, there would have to be something
You build a
somewhere.
road.
You would build.
And truthfully, the connections could be one-way only, that anybody going from the one condo would go through the other, one-way only, because you're not eliminating any of your entrances. Entrances are staying as they are. If you choose to go through that entrance, you take your life in your hand, or you go through all the way over to Cove and
That would
go
be a
out via the light.
single lane. It'd
So
be a
in-
Single lane, one-way only.
Right, so in other words, if I'm parked right here, which I think is the Brooksmobile here, and we want to drive, sorry, that's. I park at the other end of the building. And they want to go to Archibald Park, because there's a cool event, they'll drive through here, follow the roadway here, drive around at about 5 miles an hour, so everybody can see you, come on out through here.
Not there, come out through there.
Or through here, one or the other, go around here, access 150th at the traffic light here, wait for the left turn to turn green, and then make a much safer left-hand turn. I think that's where,
It's a safe way of going.
Yeah,
It's a
it's-
safe way, a one-way only.
understood, and that's part of the, we're trying or determining if this could work, but it does make it would appear to make it an easier path to get a signalized intersection where we have been discussing.
And the only traffic that would be
And it
going
would be
through
one
there
way.
would be the Snug Harbor. And Anne Marie, how many units you have in Snug Harbor?
We have 48.
48. Yeah.
Or would it be a possibility that your condo would be where the signal goes and the other two would feed to you?
Doesn't service the two condos across the street.
But it services, the thing that I see happening all the time from my balcony, is people running across the street there because there's no, they have to go all the way down to your way to cross the street, across the button.
Catch you.
I see it all the time, people just waiting and running across the street between the new condos,
Well-
the marina.
Right, but again, the idea is if this became the signalized with the pedestrian, then it should, in theory, alleviate some of what you said, hopefully all of it. So people aren't risking their life running across 150th or State Road 666.
I mean, yeah. So, I mean, you guys would have to keep all your existing parking. I mean, I know right off the bat, we wouldn't approve for a reduction of parking there, so.
We can fix the parking, don't worry about it.
So
Fix it.
that, and then landscaping, impervious surface ratio.
Andrew gets paid to tell me what the rules are. Being the city manager, we're like, well,
drainage,
let's see what we can do.
But that's what it, so I mean, it still would have to meet all the planning and zoning requirements. I'd have to check the zoning district, see if there's any like setback and other things like that. But I mean, it might be doable, but it seems like that might be one of the few paths forward because I guess they need a certain level of traffic volume to justify the light and deviating from that 1,320 feet.
So an option, yeah, go ahead, if you could pass that. Thank you.
Before all this is done, when the triangle gets built, are they going to reestablish Madeira Way, or where's all that, where are they coming in and out? If you change the pedestrian crosswalk to,
So I believe the configuration would continue. The traffic in and out of the triangle would be through entrances and exits on Madeira Way. There will not be, you can correct me, but I don't believe there will be entrances to the triangle off of Gulf Boulevard. And I'm not sure, on 150th, I don't think you'll have entrances or exits onto the town center triangle. The entrances will be on Madeira Way.
I've got a question for DOT. Are they going to have to modify any of these driveway connections to meet signalized intersections requirements? Because they don't have a a left turn lane and a right turn lane, and, you know, at the intersection, so you're gonna have somebody queuing up, trying to make a left turn, the guy can't make a right turn, and, you know, and it's, and, because this is a driveway we're talking about, we're gonna create an intersection out of two driveways. I mean,
Right, and so typically, for any side street that is at a signalized intersection, there's three roadways, right? One coming
Right.
in and two coming out.
right.
So it may be configured where there's a left and a through right, or it could be a right and a through left, depending upon the traffic and where it's going.
And you see how that one driveway already established the width of that driveway along the DOT right-of-way.
Right, but my viewpoint on that is that this would be a left turn only. Could be, I guess I'm not. But this, again, the turn out of Madeira Cove, they'd have to be able to go right, and but I'm saying that based on the fact we had talked about a one-way in this direction.
But if you make it left,
right, what you just said is what I was thinking, is that there isn't enough room to have 3 lanes there.
if you make it left only, then your car count's going to significantly drop, but then you won't be able to meet the requirements for the exemption for the distance.
I think it's more, I think we can be better served here today, just my opinion, to talk about getting a light at Madeira Cove, which is what we originally talked about, and how that can be accomplished with FDOT, or whether it can't be. Because talking about creating new roads and doing all of that, that is 3 private properties that would have to really, and knowing the properties, I don't see that being something that's going to happen. I'm not saying it couldn't, but it is not something that would easily happen. So I think we could roll it back in to focus on the light at Madeira Cove, because that would create the interruption in the traffic.
So thank you for that, Mayor. We did, especially when condos, even though I hate to call them A and B, but condos A and B came in for development, it didn't have enough traffic or trips to trip a traffic signal. So without additional trips from either Madeira Cove or from...
How many do we need?
Yeah, that's
Give
what I'm
us the
wondering.
time frame, tell us how many.
Oh, Anne Marie, I remember it like it was yesterday, because I had multiple meetings with FDOT. If there's a way to get the 3 condos to all come out through Madeira Cove, and with the traffic that we've created at the 2 Condo A and Condo B, we're still a little short. But the factor that you have to add in there is the pedestrian crossings. And there's a lot of people on both sides of the street that need to cross. And that's a great spot, because it's all concentrated right there. So they don't have to walk down to the Madeira Way crosswalk. They'd all be crossing at that. And I think that, combined with the safety issues of all of the residents.
Well, in the marina.
And the marina.
A light being moved to the intersection at Madeira Cove would also interrupt the flow of traffic for the marina coming and going, the boats pulling in and leaving, and then yet again, the new development that's going to be built, I call it the Old Lever Rocks, on that property is going to be more traffic that's going to come and go. So the light would be, it seems like the easiest way to interrupt the flow of traffic to allow people to come and go from those condos and the marina.
Okay, so ultimately, as Anne Marie said, so we're looking at the possibility of doing a light at that intersection, which to be a light, so Cove would have to widen their drive anyway to to be able to have a light there. It would have to have at least 3 lanes, one right, one left, and so that intersection on Cove would have to get widened anyway. So
Ideally, ultimately, presuming that there is a signalized intersection proposed there, there would have to be special analyses to determine the actual lane mix. And I wish to disclaim at this time that any modification of an existing driveway or consolidation between properties would be subject to the access connection permitting process.
Okay, so ultimately, yes. So that will be it'll have to get widened anyway. So Cove would have to give up some of the easement or some of their property there to make the light possible. And then if any of the other 2 condos would join there, that would potentially add more people or numbers and get the count up to where it needs to be.
Without a proper analysis, we can neither confirm nor deny.
Great response.
Great.
What's the minimum amount of feet?
Yeah.
What's the minimum amount of feet a traffic signal needs to be from a drawbridge? I've been trying to find that out, and I haven't been able to find like a exact answer on that.
I don't believe it's called out.
We're not, it's like, we would have to look into that. We don't believe it's called out, but we could verify. There may be special procedure for a signal that is very close to a drawbridge, but I don't think there is a specific distance requirement.
Well, but we've got the example of Doomy to the bridge, and that's what I was trying to look on Google Earth, and I think the distance between Doomy Road and the bridge might be the same as Cove, or probably even less distance from Cove to the bridge.
Looks like 13, sorry.
So with all of the ideas and the information that you all have shared, we will take that back, and I guess we'll try to have another meeting sometime in November so that we can pull more people in and get any other ideas. I can leave my business card here for anybody, and you can email me or call me if you would like that.
Somebody else had a comment? Anyone on this side? Oh, okay. Any other questions, comments? You got time? Yeah.
I have one, but not about this specific spot. The area where you are coming off of Madeira Way and you're heading toward 150th, there's a lot of times cars turn right out of there. Let's see where you pull it up on the... It's going. Right there. Where cars turn right, no, on the other side, coming off Madeira Way, turning right.
Oh,
Where
here.
the signal used to be, yeah. And there's a problem with backed up traffic there because they cut across both lanes of 150th to get in that far left turn to then turn into this neighborhood on East Madeira Avenue.
So
Yeah, or whatever, they do this like awkward turn that then blocks the light there, and it's like a double backup. We get backed with the pedestrian light and then the light at Gulf, and then these people will come across the road and block it long ways.
do we have your permission that I can go out there and put a right turn only sign on Madeira Way right here?
Because they do,
Says
they cut
right
across.
turn only.
Yeah,
If you cross lanes, your tires will be shot out.
I mean, honestly.
Can I do that? Yeah, so
I don't design that way, because when all that was changed around, the light was taken out, we were told that was the intent, to make the right, to go all the way
to
across.
make the U-turn, yeah.
What they did is when they first did it, and this is what we're doing, but they didn't put in the extra asphalt asphalt. So it's like, this doesn't work. And they're like, oh yeah, it will, let us put in that asphalt. So if you look there, as part of that program, that's what they put the asphalt in there.
I maneuver that at least 10 times a day. Coming out of Madeira Way, making a right-hand turn.
It's a blue DeLorean.
When traffic, I've got a different vehicle. I'm incognito now.
Awesome.
Cybertruck.
Yeah, I'm flying under the radar. So oftentimes when there's not much traffic, when you come out of Madeira Way, you can easily get into the lane and make the U-turn right there to go what? Or I do it just to turn into my office. Sometimes when traffic's bad, I have to go up further, and then you can go to the light, and you can make the U-turn at Gulf Boulevard. So there's a couple of options there, but I know a lot of people want to jump and get right over there, and that's when you'll see them backed up on Madeira Way.
And then the light will turn green and we're all sitting there.
Right. And God bless when the thing, when the light turns red, because then everybody can go. So yeah, it's a tough spot, you know. There's, and I'm gonna be honest with you. There's gonna be, I've got probably half of the buildings empty on the triangle there, and eventually there's gonna be a hotel built, and I think I have a really good plan to keep the traffic coming off of 150 to go just into the two parking garages. They'll be directly across from each other. And then if we can just eliminate the people from Reddington that still, I don't know why, but they still like to come up to Madeira Way, turn left. I picked up 6 bumpers that have fallen off of people's car when they fly over those speed bumps. Yeah, I mean, and they still think that's a shortcut.
They still like the shortcut.
They like the shortcut, which isn't a shortcut.
Plus the stop sign and then the traffic light.
Right. And they still do it. They still do it.
I would just like to see a plan for that, especially with the increased flow we're gonna have. It's already a problem now. We have a hotel, we have all this other stuff. I feel like it's gonna be exasperated.
Well, Bill assured us that the majority of guests are not going to have a car there, right, Bill?
Well, I'm telling you, there's a lot. We get people going into the Cambria all day long, and a lot of people are Ubering. I own the 2 bars there. I can tell you about 50% of my customers
are taking ride shares. Yeah,
yeah,
they're not bringing their vehicle. I haven't asked, but you may have, Kevin, with Cambria. It appears that the Cambria, a majority of their guests do not bring a car.
That's what I'm saying.
It's like 2/3 of the Cambria guests don't have a vehicle with them.
People come to Madeira Beach to vacation, and they're coming here for the beach. They're not getting in their car, driving to Disney World.
Some are, but
some might.
But I think,
but
I mean,
people come to enjoy the beach. That's what they come for.
And I think Andrew Morris has mentioned at other meetings regarding redevelopment, and one of the reasons, for example, for the Johns Pass Activity Center, one of the comments has been currently, it's not going to happen at Johns Pass Village, but you could have a drive-through, or could, till the changes were made. Drive-throughs are bad on an island. Why? I think we all want a drive-through. It'd be great if there was a Starbucks drive-through or something. Well, there's a Dunkin' Donuts in Reddington Shores. They attract more vehicles. That's the reason, but that's what is allowed. As cities have redeveloped and added boutique-type hotels, or a little bit more, again, you get, and this is going to sound terrible because when I was up the road, this was Clearwater's plan. No secret to it. You may never have heard it. We're going to get rid of the mom and pop hotels. I can tell you, I sat through meetings. That was the plan. Develop it over 25 years into what exactly it has become. Not going to happen here. That's not going to, Madeira Beach has never had that type of a plan. When you have boutique or higher end hotels, you have a different tourist, a different overnight visitor than you did 20, 30, 40 years ago. Clearwater Beach, all things equal, they have a ton more cars today because they have a lot more day trippers. We have a lot more day trippers because the number of visitors has just grown. Why? This is a very desirable place to visit. There's no doubt about that. Nobody's going to say otherwise. However, when you do start to redevelop to higher end properties, you do see a decrease in the number of vehicles. It just happens. You're higher. You're spending $500 to $1,000 a night on a hotel room. Most of those visitors, tourists, do not bring a car with them. They are not renting a car.
No.
That's what has been happening. I've asked Visit St. Pete Clearwater to try to figure out if there's a way to survey, to incorporate that. Cambria is a good example. Clearwater Beach with the resorts that they've built, I can tell, even though the resorts have to have parking because we have to have planners and land use people like Andrew Morris, who's one of the best ones in this whole region. What are they? Yeah, you still need to have the parking because that's what it is. However, that is starting to change a little bit. We're starting to see in urban areas throughout the country where the parking requirements are becoming smaller, encouraging rideshare, encouraging bicycles, encouraging alternative forms of transportation. That is not so easy in Pinellas County. Try taking the bus from here to, if you have to go to the Criminal Justice Center, for example, it's a little bit of a ride to get there. But that is what's happening. Will that happen with the Triangle Hotel? I think we've seen that a little bit with the Cambria. But yes, I agree. What was there before the Cambria?
Bronze Lady.
Probably didn't have as many people visiting, or maybe it did. I don't know. I wasn't here.
It was Bronze Lady and the Amish Creamery and some others that all shared that one, area there.
Just because my point is.
Less traffic now,
the
for sure.
redevelopment of properties into what is happening, whether we agree or disagree, I think the vehicular studies would show less going to that destination. The flip side to that is we're just getting more people coming out here and coming out via their vehicles. We're trying to change that, but it is very difficult, for example, for a day tripper, a family, if they're coming from West Tampa, let's go to Madeira Beach, how can they get here without their car? That's the big challenge, and I can tell you for years, when I lived in Clearwater and my kids were little and we go to Clearwater Beach, we took the ferry, the boat, twice. Just 2 times, because with all the stuff that you have, you really need to have your car within a certain distance. And that's difficult culturally to change, especially when you're bringing 1, 2, or 3 infants to 6 or 7-year-olds. It's tough to carry what you need. And it seems now coming to the beach, you have to bring your tent, not just your umbrella, but now you're bringing your tent and all your food and everything, and that's great. But it makes it difficult to get out here without a car.
I've got one last question for FDOT. And so I think people in the room know me. I like to build buildings. That's what I do for a living. How many more condos would I have to build across 150th there where the 2 condos are to generate enough traffic? I mean, does Robin want to give me permission to build 60 more condos on the vacant lot?
No.
I don't want to build it, but I mean, what's it really going to take to get FDOT to get the counts that we need? We're asking a lot from, Boca Vista. We're asking you to allow Snug Harbor to come along that road. That's a lot of ask. A lot of benefit, though, too, for the community. So I think that's the best way to solve the problem.
Yeah, there's a method to it, but.
The warrants for a traffic signal are located in the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices. This is a publication of the Federal Highway Administration, I believe. Jamal?
Yeah, we'll have to get, look at it. I can't answer that question.
When I developed the Madeira Beach Town Center, and I got all the approvals, nothing was built, it was just the approvals. I can tell you I did 9 traffic studies and worked with FDOT. We made all the changes and paid for all those changes that you see with the medians along there. So we've done everything that we were required to do, and went above and beyond by having so many, and then even a resident in Reddington Shores paid the University of Florida to do a private, because he thought all the traffic studies were bullshit, you know. And he did a private study, and it's interesting, out of all 9, the traffic counts, and it's vehicle trips, it's not cars. So it's vehicle, like if you went to Publix and came home, that's 2 vehicle trips. It was just 1 car.
But 2 trips.
But 2 trips, and it's all about trips. So, yeah, we spent a tremendous amount of time and money doing all those traffic studies, and I can tell you, all of them were within 20 vehicle trips. And that's just, you think about that.
That's how close you are.
The studies are accurate because they count the cars, and we did them all throughout the year, you know. So it wasn't just done at spring break. It wasn't done in the dead of summer when the traffic's light. So we did them all times. So this is very important to our community, I think, to come together and come up with a solution that's going to make life easier for all of us that live here.
Yeah, comments, questions? Chance? Yeah, go ahead.
Like unrelated.
Can you grab the catch box? Thank you.
Is FDOT in charge of the paving of the road too? Because we've got that gnarly pothole right there. I think everyone knows what it is in the far right lane when you're heading off this island.
On your way off the island.
Yeah, it is gnarly.
Hold on. There's a couple. It isn't just one.
But there's one extra bad one. Either way, it'd be great if that disappeared.
Right about, is it here?
It's right in front of the Kava place, kind of like, or it's
Back
like,
here?
yeah, like maybe somewhere right in there. You'll know it when you hit it.
The road heading eastbound is
Yeah.
getting a little dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, that's the good thing about
And
having
there's probably a
potholes.
bumper out there, yeah.
It's the curb lane.
It's
I think
bad.
there's 2 on the curb lane if I'm,
Yeah, they're extra bad. And then I don't know if our fountain's back. Is our fountain back?
yeah, sorry about
The
that.
Fountain of Youth is back on Gulf Boulevard.
They were looking, FDOT staff were looking at it yesterday morning, taking pictures. I think they took some of the water to go sample.
Artesian well.
Yeah, it's a well that has returned, so it's doing well. I don't know what else
Charging
to
people
tell
to visit that.
you. So if we can be, Joe Ellen and Donald, thank you so much for attending, but yet you've heard clearly to put the signalized intersection would be, and what else we would need to do to get that, and other enhancements, improvements, and I think I shared with you even the cost. I think the city would be willing to look at splitting cost into the future, or certainly contributing some to the cost to get this even to convince, as opposed to waiting for budget.
What about adding an exit to that parking lot? That's also another.
Which parking lot?
The one in front of that complex right there.
Here?
Because right now, if they went out into Deer Cove driveway there.
Does that add to cars?
That would add more.
There's
Oh.
an elevation difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, we looked at that.
Yeah.
So like closing this one and forcing them to here? I like that. That's good.
Years ago, that was a driveway, and Deer Cove and the board had it closed off because it created problems for Deer Cove.
So this used to be open years ago, but then closed from the plaza
There's an alleyway behind.
back here.
Yeah, it goes all the way through.
Yeah.
They cut that off years ago.
Get some more car counts though.
Any other comments, questions? You can, if you think of anything, there's some sheets in the back where it says meeting agendas, write your notes, or please send us emails. Joellen's gonna leave a card, and so please let us know of anything else. I know we received quite a bit, but thank you all for coming out.